I'm practicing to take the BU Fundamentals Exam. This video is about a drill that appears in that exam. This is today's drill. On the right-hand side are instructions for setting it up. I'm going to show you my first attempt at the drill. I'm going to show you some practicing that I did to identify weaknesses and make some improvements. And then I'm going to show you my final attempt. At the end, I'll discuss some lessons learned and some things that I need to work on. And with that being said, let's get to my garage. Okay, here is my first attempt at the drill. Let's talk about the setup. The object ball is about 1 diamond away from the side pocket, and you have cue ball in hand. So you can put the cue ball anywhere you want, as long as you make the object ball in the side, and then the objective is to get the cue ball to collide with the next ball of the next target on the rail. So I just attempted both 1 balls, made contact with the 1s. Now I'm going for the 2. And essentially what I'm doing here is just going off my experience. I'm in my mind's eye. I am applying what's called the peace sign, which if you're not familiar with it, basically when you form a peace sign with your fingers, the angle that's created there is roughly the same angle that a cue ball will come off a collision with an object ball. And so you can kind of use that as a guide on where the cue ball is going to be traveling after contact. So I'm trying to utilize that technique as I'm going through and doing this. If you just noticed, I actually made a mistake there before my shot. I adjusted my stance while I was still down on the shot, which is a really bad thing to do. I actually think I do this twice in a row. I make this shot, make the 4, but watch my next setup. I get down on the ball, and then right before I shoot, you see my whole body shift left. Watch this. There it goes. Don't do that. If you find yourself needing or thinking you need to adjust, stand up, reset your feet, and start shooting again. Five ball here. This is actually, in my opinion, kind of a tough shot. To be honest with you, I think I got lucky. I hit it twice here, but just barely hit it twice. So this is definitely a shot that I worked on in practice to refine how I hit it. So now we are entering the tougher part of this drill, the final 5 balls, which in my opinion are much, much tougher to make. I missed my first shot at the 6, but here's the good news. Good news, bad news. I missed my second shot on the 6 also. However, I miss it in the exact same spot. So I'm going to take that as a positive. It's much easier to fix a bias in your shot as opposed to variation in your shooting, in my opinion. Hey, I'm looking for the good story here. Okay, I get good on the 7. And then from this point on, spoiler alert, it doesn't go well. There, I was tightened up a little bit. My arm was not loose. Anytime you tighten your arm up, that's the type of result you get. You don't get the action you would normally expect. To counteract that, I got really loose and then drew it way too much. Then I tighten up again, it goes short. So I'm struggling with getting my stroke just to be loose and natural. Again, tighten up a little bit there. This funny thing here, I make the 8 ball when I should be making the 9 ball, or at least where the 8 ball would have been. I was really struggling with the speed control here, the stroke control. And not a bad draw there. Still missed. So to make up for it, I try to draw this a lot harder. And you know what's going to happen? Yep, drew it too hard. That's tough. I got a lot to work on. Okay, it's time for practice. I think we can agree that my first attempt was not that good. So the question becomes, well, how do I go about making improvements here? So what I've decided to do is to take this drill and break it up into three main parts. The first part being the balls that are on the top rail, the second part being the balls on the side rail, and the third part being the balls on the bottom rail. Now I decided to group the balls in this manner because basically all the shots in each of those groupings are very, very similar. So let's talk about the first group. So these are the variables that I'm going to hold constant. I'm going to use the same English for every shot, which is basically none. I'm going to keep the Q-tip on the vertical axis. I'm going to use about 1.5 tips of follow, which basically makes the cue ball roll naturally. And I'm going to use the same aim point. I'm going to use a half ball hit for each shot. That gives me a very specific target to shoot for. And I'm also going to use the same shot speed. So the speed I'm going to use is going to be just a little bit more than pocket speed. So just enough to get the cue ball to the object ball, maybe a little bit beyond. But I don't want to hit these balls very hard. And with all these variables fixed, that leaves only the cut angle to experiment with. So here's what I did. So for the cut angles, you've got ball in hand, which basically gives you an infinite number of cut angles that you can choose from. I decided to restrict my cut angles to just those discrete options that correspond to the half diamond increments on the bottom rail. And so basically what I did is I started at the half diamond position on the bottom rail and drew a line up to the object ball, to the aiming point, and then put the cue ball on that line. And then I executed the shot, 1.5 tips of follow, half ball hit, vertical axis only, a little bit more than pocket speed, and then just watch to see where the cue ball would hit. And then I basically ignored the object balls, but then I went to the next diamond and then repeated the same process. Basically shooting straight up to the object ball, to the aim spot, and then just seeing where the cue ball hits. And did that over and over and over again. And what you end up with is what's called a shot map, which looks like this. And basically this map tells you what to do for each shot. So here are my solutions for group 1. In the course of learning this drill, I must have hit hundreds of balls trying to figure out what would work, what wouldn't work for each of these shots. Now there are many different ways to make the same shot. So what I'm going to do is show you what worked best for me, what I found to be most consistent, and depending on your specific skill set, I'm sure the solutions that you come up with might be a little different than mine. For the first shot, I drew a line from the 3/4 diamond point on the rail up to the 3/4 fraction hit on the object ball, put the cue ball on that, then hit it with 1.5 tips of follow with pocket speed. So by pocket speed, what I mean is I hit the cue ball just hard enough to get it to the target and maybe just a little bit further, but it's a very, very soft hit. For the second shot, I started at the 1.5 diamond point on the rail and drew a line to the half ball hit on the object ball, hit the cue ball on that, and again hit with 1.5 top with a little bit more than pocket speed. Third shot, I started at the second diamond on the rail, drew a line to the half ball hit, then I hit it with 1.5 tips of follow and a little bit more than pocket speed. For the fourth shot, I used a starting point of 2.5 diamonds on the rail, drew a line to the half ball hit, put the cue ball on that, and then hit with 1.5 tips of follow and a little bit more than pocket speed. Next up is shot 5. Let's talk about shot 5. It turns out shot 5 is definitely very different for me between 5, 6, and 7. 5 is kind of unique. So what I did for 5 is I drew a line from the corner pocket to the ghost ball spot. The ghost ball spot is the theoretical spot where the ghost ball, if it were sitting on the surface, that's where it touches the surface. So that's also called the spot on the cloth. So I drew a line from the corner to that spot, and then had to hit the cue ball with one tip of right, no follow, no top, no bottom, just hit one tip right, and use about medium speed, and that gave me a very, very consistent hit on the 5-ball. For shot number 6, I chose a line that extends from the corner pocket, again to the ghost ball spot, but this time I shot on the vertical axis. I did not do left or right. But I did use basically maximum draw, and what I mean by that is I put my Q-tip about 1.5 to 2 tips low for draw, but I hit it with about pocket speed. So I'm not really trying to aggressively draw, even though my tip is like 1.5 to 2 down. I'm just really hitting it with pocket speed, and it seemed to be just enough to get me contact on the 6. For shot 7, I started with an origin of 2, the second diamond, drew a line from that to the ghost ball spot. Again, I used maximum draw, 1.5 to 2 tips, and I had to hit this one with about a medium speed. That seemed to give me the action I needed to be able to make contact with the 7. Okay, let's talk about group 3. I really struggled with group 3, not because of the draw itself. I mean, to me, drawing is really easy. The hard part is actually controlling the draw. So for shot 8, what I found to be most consistent, I'm going to give you guys the solutions that were most consistent for me. There are, as I said before, many, many different ways you can make these same shots, but for me, this was the most consistent. So for shot 8, I used the origin of 2, the second diamond, and I drew a line to the ghost ball spot, used maximum draw, 1.5 to 2 tips, and the speed I used was what I call fast snappy. So basically I'm not killing the ball, but I'm snapping my wrist pretty good and getting some pretty good speed on the pretty good spin on the cue ball. So that worked for me. Well, it worked sometimes on shot 8. Shot 9, same thing, except I used an origin of 1.5 diamond to the ghost ball spot. Again, maximum draw. And I used my fast snappy speed, if you want to call it that. And then for shot 10, I moved the origin to the first diamond. And again, ghost ball spot was my target. I used maximum draw, 1.5 to 2 tips, and used a fast snappy draw. So here's a funny little story. So after I had spent, 2 or 3 hours working on figuring out those last 3 balls, I wasted 2 or 3 hours on that. And then I remembered, oh yeah, Dr. Dave actually did an article on this about how to control draw and how to hit certain targets on draw shots by trisecting the angle. And after I wasted 2 or 3 hours, then I remembered it. And I'm like, man, I could have saved myself a whole lot of time. So it turns out, empirically, I actually came to the same solution just by kinetically hitting balls. It took me a few hours to do it, but it actually would have been a lot more efficient to actually just read the article and implement it. All right, enough practicing. Let's see if I actually learned anything. Let's shoot the final attempt. Okay, here is my final attempt. After that practice session, I did create a big cheat sheet, and you can see it there on the table. But hey, it's okay. It's just practice. It's not going to hurt anybody. All right, my first shot. What you're going to see me do here, see when I'm touching the table? So I'm actually making a real effort here to be as precise as I can for these shots, really as a verification of the work that I did in the practice. Again, you see me there, put my finger down, and I'm basically going right off the cheat sheet. This cheat sheet I'm actually going to give you at the end of this video, and it will basically show you how to make all 10 shots. Now, it's not automatic. There is obviously some skill involved, but it's going to get you 95% there. Shot 3. And notice on most of these shots, I am hitting the balls much more squarely than I was in my first attempt. Came a little under that one. That's okay, I still hit it. Again, I'm trying to be really strict about putting my finger on the origin point, using the correct aim speed. I'm trying to make these first 4 or 5 balls automatic to maximize my score. I was discussing this drill with a friend of mine, and he asked, well, is this really applicable to just normal play? Especially if I'm using a cheat sheet like this. And I thought about it, and I actually think the answer is yes. When you're practicing, what you're really doing is you're reinforcing the techniques that you're using. You're creating pictures in your head, and those pictures you will take into a pool hall with you. The cheat sheet is not going to help you in a pool hall when you're playing a match, but the pictures that are in your head, that will help you, and that's what you're doing here. Now, to make this 5-ball shot, I actually did not follow what was on my cheat sheet. At the very end of the practice session, I found a technique that works a little bit better than what I put on my cheat sheet. So I'm also going to provide you with a modified or edited cheat sheet at the end. Here's the dreaded shot number 6. If you remember from the first attempt, I missed it in the exact same spot. So if nothing else, I am very consistent at missing shot 6. Here's my second attempt at it, and watch where it hits the rail. That's the exact same spot. Of course, I missed the shot too, so there's that. All right, shot 7. Well, so far I've scored a 10, which is actually already better than my first attempt. So we're seeing some progress here. Now, this is something I saw happen several times through these drills. I miss almost the exact same way, and then usually I recover on the second shot. I think what's happening is I'm just a little tense. My arm is not freely flowing. I'm not loose, and that's something that I just need to work on my stroke. Sometimes I get a little too robotic, too mechanical. Need to just relax and let it go like that. Now the 8, 9, and 10 I really struggle with in the first attempt. Let's see if I do any better here. Yeah, it's interesting when you just kind of let go of the analytical part and just kind of let your brain and your body flow. The shots just seem to produce themselves. All right, I've got 2 more chances. 2 chances at the 10 ball. more shot. Will I continue my trend of always missing the last shot? Let's find out. Oops. Okay, I promised you a 10-shot cheat sheet. Well, I've actually gone above and beyond. I've actually got 11 shots listed here. So let me explain what this is. So basically, I list the shots 1 through 10. I give you the rail origin. That's what I'm calling, that's the distance that your aiming line should start at. It's on the rail to the left of the side pocket. And then the aim point tells you obviously where you need to be aiming the cue ball at. Q-tips, that is telling you how much follow or draw to use, or in one case, whether it's left or right. And then the stroke speed. When I say pocket speed here, what I really mean is you're hitting the cue ball just hard enough to get it to the target ball, maybe a little bit further, but it's a very soft hit. Medium, fast, and fast snappy. Those are things that you're going to have to just get on the table and experiment around a little bit with to figure out what speeds are right for you. Now, shot 5, I had told you that I actually changed it when I took the final exam. And so I'm striking through that here for you. And I'm going to replace that with a new shot. So what I'm going to be doing on shot 5 now is rounding the corner, around the corner, and going up 1.5 diamonds. And that gives me a very, very thin cut on the object ball. And so what I'm doing is I'm shooting through the ghost ball spot. I'm applying about a half tip of follow and hitting it with medium speed. I just seem to get much better results, much more consistent results with that shot as opposed to the original shot that I listed for you. Now you'll notice I gave you 2 different shots for shot number 6. The reason I did that is I was having a lot of trouble with shot 6. So I came up with an alternative shot, which I haven't done a lot of practice on, and I didn't show it here in the video, but it does seem to give me more consistent results. And the alternate shot is I start out at the 1 diamond point away from the side pocket. I shoot the ghost ball spot. I give it about 1 tip of draw and then hit the shot fast. And it does seem to be more consistent for me, so I might apply that when I shoot the actual exam here in the next few weeks. I hope that this cheat sheet is useful for you. If it is, if you don't mind, if you could like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much. Lessons learned. So what did I learn from the wagon wheel drill? Well, the first thing I learned is that this drill is challenging. It's difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. 3 key concepts I took away from this drill. One is shot visualization. Being able to accurately visualize where, after the collision that the cue ball has with the object ball, where is that cue ball going? And so that's one of the key concepts that this drill will teach you is where is that cue ball going to go? So you're forming those pictures in your head. Stay down on the shot when you shoot and let that information get into your brain. Second key concept is having a relaxed stroke. When you tense up, when you get nervous, you do not deliver the cue stick in the same manner that your brain is telling your arm to do it. So you get results that don't match up with what you were trying to do. The more relaxed you can keep your stroke, the more repeatable and the more controlled your results will be. Simplify, simplify, simplify. What I mean by this is only do what you have to do with the cue ball. Don't do anything extra. I have this really bad habit of applying spin to the cue ball on purpose for no apparent reason. I don't know why. I just like spinning the cue ball. That's a really bad habit. I'm trying to get rid of that habit. And that's one thing that this drill really taught me is, just cue it up on the vertical axis whenever possible and only deviate from that when you absolutely have to. Again, simplify. It's easier to control things. Let's talk about skill development. I mentioned several techniques as I was going through this the practice session here. I mentioned peace sign aiming, which is a technique that allows you to predict where the cue ball is going to head off to after it collides with the object ball. I introduced the rail diamond aiming process here during the practice session, and that was really to nail down exactly where I needed to be shooting my shots from and what angles I need to be hitting the object ball. Again, what I was really trying to do there is make those accurate pictures in my head so that in the future I can apply these techniques in real world situations. And also I'll mention the draw shot trisect angle aiming method. There's been several things written about this. I know Dr. Dave has an article or 2 or 3 about it. It's a very good technique that you can apply in any situation where you're drawing the cue ball off of an object ball and trying to move that cue ball into a certain location on the table. So it's a very, very good technique to know if you don't know it. So I will continue to work on this drill even after this video in preparation for when I'm going to be taking the BU exam. Hopefully I'll be taking that in the next several weeks. Billiard University was formed in 2012 by Dr. Randy and Dr. Dave, and their goal was to help pool players improve. They do this by providing skill assessment tools and resources that can really help your game. They currently offer 6 different exams for assessing your pool playing ability. But for this video series, I'm just focused on the drills that are associated with Exam 1. There are several benefits of taking the BU exams. For one, you will be able to get a sense of how good of a player you are based on your overall exam scores. Here's an example scale. You can also watch YouTube videos of some of the top pros taking the same exact exams that you can take. And here's a fun thing. Billiard University periodically sponsors contests where you can win money based upon how well you do on the drills. So what are you waiting for? You should also be taking these exams. If you enjoyed this video and want me to make more videos like this, please subscribe. Also hit the like button. Feel free to leave me a comment or a suggestion for future video topics. Stay safe and shoot well.